Awesome, guys. This is another episode of the Frame and Focus podcast. Today we have Alex Burton, photographer. Yeah, round of applause. And Brandon Torres, our producer. If you guys haven't already, please like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, our Instagram, our TikTok. We're basically everywhere. And write a 5-star review too if you haven't already. We greatly appreciate it. For all you guys, thanks for coming back and thanks for listening. I guess we'll start with Alex if you want to kick it off. Yeah. It's our usual question of like how you got into this and your journey and how you got to where you are.
Yeah,
what are you doing with your life?
What am I doing here? Who are you guys?
Yeah,
what is this?
Why are we in a garage right now?
Yeah, so first of all, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah.
I've helped in the background on a few of these episodes. It's fun to be in the hot seat now.
That's right.
So yeah, I guess photography for me really started about 5 years ago. I was, like a lot of people, just kind of a hobbyist photographer, taking the camera on family trips to wherever, just taking kind of snapshots. Ended up joining some like photography clubs when I was living in North Carolina. Got a little more passionate about it, but really sparked when I moved here to Austin. And just kind of right place, right time, had a friend kind of trust me and my nascent photography skills to kind of go for it and trial by fire, start a product photography studio, which I knew nothing about at the time. I know a little bit more now, but basically just got thrown into it and was literally had like client asks on one side, editing photos, and the YouTube tutorial up on the other side. Learning Photoshop, learning off-camera lighting, learning all those things pretty quickly, at least the basics of it. So yeah, kind of cut my teeth on that white background, Amazon-style e-commerce photography, high-volume stuff, and then kind of slowly branched out into more lifestyle commercial work. Starting out more of that kind of basic look that you would see on just any old Amazon listing, but eventually kind of working my way up in terms of the production value, and doing some fun stuff these days.
Now you're doing self-portrait boudoir. I don't know.
That's right.
And then OnlyFans.
What is your next? I'm curious. What's your next? Like you've been going down the line of trying to do different things, doing product photography and environmental portraits. And see, I had you turn me down because I was going to be loud, but yeah, either way. But what's your next kind of phase? Like, what is something you want to tackle as a photographer? Like, what's your next interest of theme?
Yeah, so I think at this point in my life and I guess photography career, really trying to kind of see where geographically photography can take me. I really have had a lot of fun on the travel shoots that I've been on, a couple with Vinnie that have been a blast.
Yeah, that last one was awesome.
Yeah.
Where'd you guys go?
We went to Amangiri. It's a crazy hotel out in, I guess it's in Arizona. It's in Utah, I guess, technically. It's like right on the border.
Oh.
And it's like a 6-star hotel. And I think like
6 stars.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like
it's
Kanye
like
West, Angelina Jolie type.
Room
guest
started
list.
like $7,000 a night.
Oh my God.
It was a wild shoot, but it was pretty cool to be out there. We were there for 4 days.
Assistant? Let's just do it. I'll go next time.
Yeah, it was a wild one, but it was awesome he killed it as always. So it was awesome to have him.
So what'd you end up shooting while you're there? Like, I know obviously Vinny's got his thing that he's doing, but what were you shooting specifically there?
Yeah, so we were basically just the content team for the weekend. He was shooting video, I was shooting photos alongside of it. They had an insane agenda lined up for the stacked guest list, and we were just there to kind of capture the moment so they could keep their phones in their pockets and their attention focused on everything that's happening and all the friends that are there sharing in the experience.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
so
it was one for the books for
it's
sure.
It's really like the camera in that situation and a few others has been like a ticket to kind of get a peek behind this curtain that like normies, I don't know, for lack of a better term, don't usually get
Normal
to
people don't get to see.
Yeah, there's no way I would have been there on my own.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I think I heard the buyout for that weekend was like $12 million or something.
No shit.
To have like.
Excuse me, I can't cuss on this, can I?
You can
No.
do whatever you want.
Or is it just going to be a chicken noise that comes up when I?
was a wild, like he said, peek behind the curtain, just to see that way of life, and to be able to capture that was definitely a privilege. It was awesome.
You get a lot of, both of you guys, actually all three of you guys get a lot of peeks behind the curtain and get to see things that you normally wouldn't see. What's the wildest you think right now? Like, Vinny, what about yourself? What's the wildest thing you've been able to kind of experience that you don't think you ever would have without being the man with the camera?
I guess music-wise has been probably the biggest things. Like I've met and shot with like Willie, which has been pretty awesome a couple of times. And Alex was actually at one of the events. We didn't get to meet him that time, but we got to be close to stage. And I was on stage another time shooting him.
You better drag my ass, go see Willie. God damn it, I want to do that. Normally there's the Willie's, what's the thing that goes on?
Luck.
Luck.
Yeah.
Do you ever do that? You work with that?
Yeah, I shot.
So do you know Matt?
Beiser?
Yeah, Matt
he's
Beiser.
the man. He's a good dude.
I love that guy. He's incredible. As far as producers go, like people that honestly I've seen do some amazing work. That's a guy that I would really love. I think that's a guy you guys should talk to. Matt's incredible. He is.
He's awesome.
I worked with him on a music video way back when he was just like a nobody. He was just like new and fresh, and man, he had these bizarre ideas and these crazy things he wanted to do. And it was like, I'm like, what kind of madman am I working with here? Yeah.
He also just started Landlock Fest. I don't know if you guys have heard of that, but it's like a 3-day festival out at this like surf spot in, I think it's like Waco or something.
Mm-hmm. So he's a music producer or something?
Yeah, he puts on
event
festivals.
Event producer. Okay.
Yeah.
But he's really tight with the Luck family, and he's ran Luck for I don't even know how long now. But
a couple, like it's been almost not a decade, but it's been getting close. Pretty soon will be, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So. Yeah, he's a great dude, and
shout out Matt.
Shout out Matt.
Yeah,
I love Matt. Matt Beiser's, I worked with him, and he was just super talented dude. He brought some people in that honestly, like, totally changed the way I look at cameras and everything. Like, totally changed a little bit of the work that I was doing then. He's just connected to some of the most amazing people that he pulls them out of the woodworks. Yeah, so that's really cool.
Yeah,
that's really cool. What about yourself, Alex? What's the most crazy, wildest thing you've been able to expose yourself to now that since you have the camera?
Honestly, it was that shoot at Amanjiri. That show was crazy. Like,
that was pretty wild.
So many levels past, like, I don't know, anything that I would have imagined people do in a single weekend. It was like 3 days, but.
Well, illustrate that for us.
Back to back to back.
What illustrate that for us?
It was like
tell us what did the rooms look like?
It was like, I don't know how many specific details we can go into, but like every 3-hour chunk of time was like a dedicated like crew of people had descended upon one of the spaces in the resort to set up, whether it's a meal or a concert from a DJ that got flown in for that night. Or a different performing act that's there. One of the last nights was like this crazy, slightly away from the main campus, like this, I don't even know how to describe it, like a elevated crater in the earth.
It was a helipad.
Yeah.
It's like they have two helipads. Most people don't drive there. They just take their helicopter in. It's one of the. This is the shit that we're dealing with.
I have to take my helicopter.
Yeah,
that kind of money.
It was private jets and helicopters getting people there.
This is my crappy helicopter. I'm sorry. I arrived in my horrible, ugly helicopter.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, the whole like ethical billionaire thing and all that, as far as ways for like the 0.1% to spend their money, on the surface it might seem like lavish and over the top, but like the literally hundreds of people between the resort staff, the event staff, us, the content team, the amount of people that were like employed by that weekend and by that kind of whole thing, I don't know. It was pretty insane to witness the machine of it all.
Yeah. That's nuts.
And on top of that, everyone, the guest-wise and staff, everyone was awesome. Like, I don't know about you, but like, everyone was great. Like, sometimes
for that kind of money, I hope so.
well, like, I mean, in terms of guests, sometimes there's kind of this like stereotype of like, oh, the more money they make, the worse of a person they are. But literally everyone there was amazing, and we made like a bunch of good friends, and I've been staying in contact with them, and it's awesome, and it was just a really cool experience on so many different levels.
Yeah, man,
not bad. Not bad.
Nice.
Dang,
Good stuff.
That sounds exciting, guys. That
Yeah,
sounds really
I wanna.
exciting.
If you got $4,000 burning a hole in your pocket, you might be able to stay
Well,
for a night out there in the off season.
In the off season,
One of the
Nice.
side rooms.
That's it, but that's it. You stay there, and it's like one night, and you're like, okay, I've experienced it. Can't pay for anything else, but that's it.
Yeah. Following Alex's story, I remember. I don't remember if it was 2019 or 2020 that we met each other.
Somewhere around there. I think it was on Craigslist too.
Yeah.
What? I didn't know
sounds
that.
Like
Shout
sounds like
out
a totally different
Craigslist.
story now. That
Yeah,
sounds like a
so-
different story.
That's how you guys met?
Alex,
yeah,
Holy
dude.
Alex
shit.
at that time was working on
Was this a classifieds on Craigslist? Is
on
that how it
this
goes?
on the previous studios
Yeah.
we were part of, and I remember I thought when I met Alex and I saw the work that he was doing, and because they already had a website built in and everything, so I remember the first impression that I had. I thought he's been doing photography for the last 10 years, and and he all humble and anything told me no, I just have. I started 2 years ago, and I was like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah,
Nice.
I mean, you practice every day. What are you doing? Because you see the talent, you see skills, you see the quality of work and everything. So that made me think that this dude has been doing photography for a long time. But
So
Thanks, man.
when you look at your work as you've gone through the time, do you look back and go, "Wow, why did I get paid for that?" Or do you ever look at something and just kind of like shove it away and go, "That's not going in the portfolio ever again"? How do you view your old work?
I do that shit all the time. So
Yeah. Yeah, some of the old lifestyle stuff, if I look at just like the way I was lighting it, I guess it's just kind of like as soon as I figured out that you could bounce a light off of like any vaguely white surface and make soft light, it was just like put three of those in a room and everything is just washed in soft, even light and is like flat and like looks like good, but it's just like a stock photo essentially at that point.
Basically.
So I mean, like, composition wise and stuff, it was fine back then, but the main thing is just kind of finding that.
I want to ask,
good light.
you were inspired by something in a specific to start doing photography, or you just suddenly someone told you, "Hey, can you take a picture?"
Yeah.
of this?
Was it just like it fell into your lap, or did you, or were you? Because you said you started as a hobbyist, is what you're talking about. But for how long were you a hobbyist, and then you were like, maybe this is a business,
Yeah, it was a solid like I don't know, 2 years I would say of like hobbyist, going from like taking random macro pictures of flowers in the front yard and landscape photography on road trips and stuff, and then I guess it sort of started when I was selling random like bike parts and stuff on eBay.
Oh, wow.
And just out of necessity, like you have to have a picture for that.
Yeah.
And I had a
The better-
camera and
the
like
better
a,
it looks,
good.
the
Yeah.
better it looks,
Yeah.
the better it sells.
yeah.
too.
And so I would just go over the top and make super nice. Well, at the time I thought were like super nice.
nice in
Photos for the-
comparison to everybody else.
yeah.
that's selling it.
Compared to like
That's-
the blurry camera phone,
Fun pictures.
like in
Yeah.
the bedroom, weird fluorescent lighting. Just nice, solid pictures for the listings, and they would sell really quickly. So I guess it kind of started there, but in terms of making it a paid career, it was really right place, right time. Friend just had faith in me to just kind of throw me into it,
Figure it
based
out.
on very little proven track record, but like just
You want
enough.
A little shout out to that friend. You can shout out to anybody if you want. Yeah. Like, thank you, kind of thing.
I mean, his name's Ian. Thanks,
Nice.
Ian, man.
There you go.
Fucking.
There you go.
Camera zooms in.
Yeah, it's like the camera zooms in, and it's like, and you're just looking right, and the little tear comes down. And it's like, thank you.
Yeah, but one thing that I might admire from you is that you it's been 4 or 5 years that you've been doing photography, right?
Yeah.
And you always keep it simple, and it works, because usually, as photographer, as creator, we tend to get the latest camera, get the latest flash, get pro photo, not Godox. You go for brands instead of, and that's one thing that I've been admiring from your work. You've been enhancing the quality of your work, but the setup is the same.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I've almost my entire portfolio at this point is on the same like Zeiss 55 millimeter 1.8 prime lens, which is like essentially the same as the nifty 50 you can get for $200 or whatever.
Yeah.
It's a little sharper, a little nicer, but
I was going to go down, when I was younger, I was going to go down that route of the photography end. But it is, number one, it's cutthroat. Number two, you're dealing with clients. Clients don't exactly know what they're asking for or what they want. And so a lot of times you have these situations where you have to negotiate or you have to navigate these relationships. And that kind of forced me to quit early on. That forced me to not do it and just keep it as a hobby. What did you do to keep yourself from getting burnt out in that time frame? What do you do now to keep yourself from getting burnt out and keep that fire alive?
yeah. So I mean, if I'm being honest, early on there was like kind of periods of being pretty close to burnt out, because I didn't really know how to manage those relationships. So, and I guess my work at this point is kind of split between freelance clients that I'm like the sole source of contact. They send me their needs. I ingest them, do the shoot for them, send them the photos, and then shoots with Lester's company, with Vinny's company, with other production companies where that the production company is kind of managing the relationship there. I might be making the shot list and mood boards and stuff, but for the most part, the like day-to-day client back and forth is handled by them. But in terms of shoots where I'm acting as like a pure like freelancer working directly with someone who needs photos, I think a big learning point for me was knowing, like identifying early on, like when a client is kind of a good one, for a lack of a better term, someone that I want to continue to do shoots for, whether that's before you do the first shoot or after you finally close the first shoot, kind of knowing when to cut ties with that relationship.
Oh, I get that.
Yeah. And it can be tough. Like if you're strapped for cash and really need to do some shoots that month to make rent.
It's the value of saying no.
Yeah, for sure. 'Cause yeah, and oftentimes it's kind of inversely proportionate to the client budget in terms of
It's
like.
so weird how that works.
Yeah, lowest budget has the highest needs and
They're
the
always
most
a pain in the
rounds
ass.
of revisions.
Yeah.
I think, honestly, on my end, that's why I kind of moved towards being producer, because I got to this point where I was like, it was no, and I was always choosing clients for things. I've gone through photography, gone through all of the production aspect of it, but I kept saying, well, clients are fucking dumb. Clients are dumb, excuse me. There we go, dropping another cursor. But clients sometimes can come off as dumb, they're not. But you get in these modes where you're working and they want things that for a fact, this is just almost impossible to do. And you have to tell them that it's either you do this, we do this, but it also costs money. There's a ratio there. But I think for me, it was like I wanted to be the one to put together the teams. And so I started looking at that. And that's what excited me more. I still do the art of photography on my end, like for myself. I still do, but I'm all old school. I'm like doing, processing film and daguerreotypes and Van Dykes and, cyanotypes and stuff like that. I do a lot of that, but that's all stuff that you will never do for a client. You'll get looks. You can emulate that look digitally.
Right.
But the one thing is, clients will often ask for something that they don't know how to explain. And how do you negotiate that? How do you pull that out of somebody when you're working with somebody? How do you pull that aspect where it's like, I get you're trying to get at something, but you're not sure what to ask for, and then when you're dealing directly with the client versus I understand that when it's you're shielded by a whole production, that's a very different thing. But tell us how you navigate those waters.
Yeah, so I think there's kind of 2 points that are important for that. The first one being upfront when you're doing pre-production. Mood boards, I feel like for me, are super helpful to accompany like the preliminary shot list that I'm sending over. So once we've had a onboarding call and I kind of know basically what they're looking for. Recently, I've been using Midjourney a lot, the AI image generator, especially for like product centric stuff,
Yeah.
and lifestyle stuff too. Honestly, like you can kind of draft up the look and feel that you're going for. And sometimes it takes a couple iterations to get something that's not like crazy looking or is setting the wrong expectation. But yeah, it's let me get like really specific in terms of like this is the vibe that I have in mind. Does this line up with what you want? And if not, how can we kind of bridge those? And then on the back end, like during the shoot, my general philosophy, like I always have a shot list, obviously, but I'm always like overshooting, and on the day there are inevitably going to be new situations that come up, new frames that we see on set. And I know Lester and Vinnie are both big fans of this as well on the video side. But essentially overshooting so that I'm not just delivering the 25 or whatever images are on the shot list, and they have a bunch more to choose from on the back end.
Like
to kind of mitigate
under promise,
that.
over deliver.
Yeah, exactly. So
like
that they're not like,
that.
what about this image? What about this one? This one isn't exactly how I envisioned it, and you can have like 4 other looks. And that kind of goes back to keeping the setup simple.
Yeah.
If you don't have a ton of lights and heavy equipment that you're having to move around for each setup and kind of staying nimble but still getting high quality looks out of everything, that helps really speed up the process and get more than what they were expecting.
How much of your work do you end up doing a lot of the Photoshop or touch-ups, but then number one, first part of that question, but second part, do you end up doing any compositing or any of that? Do you find yourself doing a lot of weird compositing? Like, I think I saw an image once where it was like there was an element, I don't know if it was water or leaf, I can't remember back in my head what it was, but you've got something that almost kind of wraps around the image, or it like looks like it comes up behind it.
Twist it.
Yeah. Do you find yourself being the one to do compositing? And so if you were to say, like, for other people that are trying to get into your line of work, this is the third part. Do you feel that you have to almost be a jack of like several trades just to be a photographer nowadays? Or like, explain that to us.
So generally, yes. I think being a jack of multiple trades, and any job these days, I feel like being more of a generalist is super helpful. That being said, obviously you want to have some specificity. So whether or not you're planning to do the retouching on all of your photos, I think it's invaluable to learn at least how to do it on each one. And so starting out, I was doing every white background photo, painstakingly making clipping paths around everything, recreating the shadows, and it was mind-numbing and painful to do that, but learning the process informs how you can shoot on the front end to make the back end easier and more natural looking. Yeah. So while these days I'm sending the white background e-commerce stuff off to a third-party company to do that first round of edits, I'm always getting back into the Photoshop file for the last 5-10% to really just punch it up and bring it to that last level. But I understand how to do the full process, so which I think is super important.
Yeah. Love that.
I think it doesn't matter what is your role on set. You have to know how things work, right?
Oh,
even if you're a director, your head has to know every other role. You know how to direct light, how to direct camera, how to direct props, art, all that stuff.
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
Yeah.
So in terms of next steps for you, do you have plans to jump into anything in a specific? Are you planning to I want to talk about your directing the view in a video commercial.
Yeah.
How was your experience on that end?
Yeah.
That was a couple of weeks ago.
You're directing what?
So I had my directorial debut on. Yeah,
That's
There we
awesome.
go.
I didn't know that.
Look at that.
Yeah,
Congrats,
it
dude.
was pretty wild. Definitely a vastly different experience being the director on set versus the photographer on set of a video commercial production. I'm very used to being involved in the pre-production, and I'm making shot lists and making sure that I'm able to get the photographs that I need in parallel with the commercial video narrative that's being shot that day. But on set,
driving the ship. You know?
Yeah, on set when you're the director and you show up and everyone drops their bags and just looks at you.
What do we do?
What's
Now
now?
Shit.
Yeah. So that was definitely a bit of a wake up call, but yeah, I mean, having worked with the team on a bunch of shoots beforehand was super helpful. Kind of knowing how everyone operated and getting a bunch of useful insight into the like pre-production process from Alexi and some other people. But yeah, stress level on set much higher, but so was the satisfaction after the shoot wraps.
That's awesome.
And getting that kind of real time feedback from the rest of the crew and really kind of being more directly involved. Obviously, as a photographer, whenever you're assisting on set, you're kind of interacting with everyone, but more on a service level. But when you're the director, you're really kind of going intimately between the different groups on set, a set designer, the grip and gaff, and the DP and everyone else, and really kind of trying to make the vision come together, because when it comes down to it, as the director, you're the only one with like the full kind of picture in your mind, and everyone else is there to kind
doing
of
their one singular job.
Yeah, enable that, and they can't read your mind. So
They can't? Oh, crap.
be a lot easier.
I've been
if they
doing it
could.
wrong.
Damn it,
I've been doing it wrong. I thought you all could read minds. What the hell?
Yeah, so just keeping that on top of mind and not assuming that anything is like self-evident was definitely a big learning process. And something I definitely like to do more of. It was a kind of crazy commercial I feel like to do as a first directing gig. It was
Very demanding.
it was pretty demanding.
What was the spot? I don't even know what it was. That's awesome.
It's not quite finished yet. We're still getting the VFX and stuff, but it was for a home Wi-Fi router with a bunch of cybersecurity features.
Nice.
Cool.
So yeah, just kind of packing in a bunch of these kind of technical networking cybersecurity concepts into this really concise format was pretty tricky, versus like, this is our T-shirt. It looks good and feels nice. You should buy one.
Yeah.
Nice.
And it was a 2-day shoot, like a long shot list.
Yeah.
Right.
It was, the shot list was way longer to begin with, and then when I was trying to make the schedule, it was like, oh my god, we need 3 more days.
That's incredible. So week
Yeah.
long
Time
shoot.
to cut.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, so far so good.
Awesome,
Yeah.
dude. Congrats. That's awesome.
Thanks,
Nice.
man.
Congratulations.
So you're interested in doing more.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So now you got to look right at the camera and tell them exactly where to get a hold of you to direct everything else.
So is there a, I wouldn't say niche, but is there a project that you will be mostly interested in? Like,
I'd say
it can be
niche.
clothing brand, it can be tech, it can be what calls you the most?
I think in terms of like personal interests that I feel like I would want to pursue directorially, I've been getting more and more into like the audio space, whether it's production or just like home audio equipment. I feel like has been advancing a lot. I mean, look at us with this crazy podcast setup. Like 15 years ago, this would have been insane to someone.
Yeah.
And that's like a lot of the content that I feel like I consume is just like reviews and random like the latest and greatest gear stuff to kind of drool over. But yeah, I think that kind of home audio, like bringing studio level stuff to the hands of someone at home.
So you like the tech aspect of things too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do like the tech aspect of things.
What about style? Like,
Do you have like a
colors
style
or
genre?
like
or is it,
yeah.
do you want to shoot like when you're doing commercials? Are you wanting to do something that's a narrative, or do you want a more informational, or do you want to do something that's like a lifestyle? Do you want to like do an all out like a comical kind of thing, or do you want to mix and match?
Well,
all the things.
all of the above.
All the
Yeah.
Like, do you have a commercial in your head that like you're like, oh, I love how this was shot, and I would love to do that?
No specific spot is jumping to mind. But in general, like the things that I have the most fun shooting in terms of just in terms of like the process of seeing it come together is working in like actions and interesting transitions into the flow of the narrative essentially, and less just like scene 1, scene 2, back to scene 1 as you work through it, and more like kind of weaving them in, whether it's room to room in a house or like day to night, or transitioning between spaces kind of more fluidly, and making it more of a less of like an assault on the senses of just like, look at all these scenarios and production value that we put into it, and more of like a, how did they, how'd they do that? One thing comes to mind, the Instagram account, and I think they have their own website now. It's called Eye Candy, but it's just like a concise summary in each post of like some crazy technique that maybe you've heard of at that point, maybe not, but done to like the most insane level, and just kind of blows your mind every time.
Is that EYE Candy?
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool. I'll check it out. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's
They can
fun.
thank you. They can cut the check later for the plug.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's fun trying to incorporate shots like that on each project. That's one of the things that I get the most excited about every time we get a project. Like, how
Trying to
can we
push the limits a
capture
little bit
this
or something?
Yeah. How can we make it look interesting or different? That's probably one of the challenges that we're gonna be applying in 2024.
That's kind of one of those things that I get excited about. I come from the cinema background, so watching things like watching the movie Amelie, where that camera goes all the way up and over, and then the pond. Like, I'd love to do something like that.
Yeah.
I always want to do that. That's the one thing, is on that very cinema kind of idea on things, and I love that kind of thing.
And I think a big part of it is not just doing flashy transitions for flashy transition's sake, but like
having it motivated by something.
Motivate it with whether it's the narrative or the product or whatever it is that you're trying to convey in the moment.
Yeah.
And I think that's when it all kind of comes together and blows people's minds.
Yeah.
Which is increasingly hard to do these days.
Yeah, right. Could you see yourself putting down the camera and just doing directing? Is that something you're interested in, or do you want to just?
I think at this point, definitely a little too early for that. Having directed one commercial,
I will.
I quit it.
With this.
Throw your gear away.
Those paychecks in directing, you're like, maybe.
Yeah, I still have too much fun hands on the camera, whether it's taking photos or shooting videos. And
maybe a mix of both this year.
Yeah, I think a good mix. It feels like a good space to kind of expand out into and test the water some more. And also will inevitably kind of inform my photography process, and
nice.
It all feeds back into itself.
It's all a self-feeding loop. Yeah, everything is connected.
Yeah. What about you, Brandon?
What about me?
Yeah, I mean, you have.
Do I need to talk about myself? Oh, I came here to talk about myself. Dang. Oh.
Yeah, you have 20 years.
Oh God, yeah.
Filming this.
I've done it.
Is that all in Texas, or is spread out around the country?
it's really. I mean, I've worked all over the country, but I'm a Texas boy, so it started in Texas. I'm still in Texas, so majority of it is in Texas. And but I like to. It's a weird thing. I tell people I've been just in every department, you name it. I've been in departments that I don't ever want to touch again. My wife is a retired hair and makeup artist, so I've been in hair and makeup. I've been in the art department. I've been a PA. I've been a writer. I've been an AD. I've been, I mean, I could keep going. I've directed. The funny thing is, I've kind of always been producing, which is kind of the weird thing about it, is that's where everyone was always trying to push me that direction, and I was always the one who was like, nah, producers are dirty, they're gross, they're slimy. Because I've had a lot of situations where I've worked with producers that are just like trying to take more out of your budget and trying to take more out of your pay rate and going, no, we could do it cheaper, or I could find someone cheaper. I just realized, I think someone told me this, said, the world's never going to get better producers if people who can be good producers don't actually get out there and try. It's kind of the same thing I was told a while back about teachers. It's like, people keep running away from being a teacher because the pay is horrible or the situation, the connotation behind things are horrible. But you need these things, and you need the people who want to change how it's done to be involved. I came straight out of college. Actually, even before college. I mean, I was in, I think as small as like 6 years old. I was always trying to direct or produce some kind of video or something. I put a video camera in my hand, or a photography camera in my hand, and I would make things. I would do stop motion stuff. Went through high school, did a lot of that, had friends that we would make these stupid videos together. I've got stuff that I've buried as much as I can, so none of you can find it. I have a movie about a hitman, and they were like, I was directing it, but I was also kind of producing it, but I didn't write it, my good friend did, and like, there's stupid things. I look back and I go, why did I do that? But every high school kid does a movie about hitman. Every high school boy, I think, does every, I don't know, maybe during my generation. But, yeah, I've kind of run the gamut of everything so that I could. I think the reality is the entire time I felt like I needed to do that so that I could actually be, first it was to be a good director, to know how those things work. But it served me even more as a producer. Director has been your main goal since the beginning, or? What's funny is I kind of got it beat out of me when I was in G&E. I was in grip electric. I was a grip for a while. I was electric for a while. And it kind of got beat out of me because there's a stigma with some of the older guys in grip electric that kind of tell you, are you a grip electric or are you a director? Get the hell off my truck if you're a director. It's like, we don't need any directors here. And then, like, I think I had one guy that was local here. He was kind of going through a lot of stuff I didn't know. But he was very abusive verbally to a lot of people. That was his shtick. Like, that was his thing. He thought that that's what success was and how you taught people. I think a year later, he called me up and he goes, hey, man, I just want to apologize. And I guess he was going through, like, the 12-step program or something, and he had to make apologies to people. But he told me, he said, because I guess what had happened was my card had fallen out of my bag, and I was like, and it said on there, it said grip electric. And then it said, in parentheses, independent director, independent DP. And he kind of took that as, and I put on there independent specifically so that I'm saying, hey, I don't do big stuff. I'm not there yet. But he took that as, oh, well, you're director or you're DP? Well, he basically tried to grill me on everything and find out how much I knew. And I mean, honestly, when you get into that situation, someone is trying to, like, get questions out of you, you kind of lock up and you kind of go, I don't know, because I kept feeling like, what did I do wrong? Like, I'm sorry my card fell out of my bag. But a year later, he calls me up and he goes, hey, man, I really like to look at your work. And then he told me, he said, you really should produce. And he said, you've kind of been around the block. You've done just about every job. And I think it was a matter of, most of the time I didn't know if I was trying to figure out where I belonged or what I wanted to do, because I've always been told directing was a thing that you kind of put as a dream, and that everything else is a job that you should get, and you should make that your backup. And what sucks about that is, in doing that, I kind of didn't know what else I would want to do other than direct. But strangely enough, it flipped, where now I'm producing actually as a job, and now I'm kind of, as a backup, I direct too. But producing, honestly has been more satisfying, because I have made so many friendships, I've talked to so many people throughout my careers, I don't know, and I've gotten to know so many great artists and so many wonderful viewpoints that I never would have had. And it allows me to, when I run into a project, I assess it, I look at it, and I think about the voice that needs to come about. And so I start with, well, directors. What directors can we talk to? And what DP can we talk to? How's the visual going to look? Like, what does the DP need to know? Is this a DP who's kind of a shoot-from-the-hip DP? Is this a DP who needs to be a real, is he real, like, stern, like, I need to know every little thing about every person on our crew? You've got to assess that. And as a producer, and throughout the years, I've been keeping a database of everybody I've worked with and like all the little things that I kind of learned from them, or, what they're really good at, or what I assessed that they're this kind of person and who they would fit with. And that database, it's spread out on a whole bunch of different files all over my computer. But it's one of those things that I use a lot of times to kind of get these puzzle pieces to put together so that, it can sustain itself and it can run on its own. I think one of the best things that I've learned to do, and with this recent project this last summer we did, it's called Background Action. Someone came to me and basically a friend of mine who I started his career, he came to me and said, hey man, I've got this young director who's got a budget because he's got this guy who's his like angel investor. And he wants to do this project, but they cannot do a feature. This thing could not fit as a feature. It needs to be a proof of concept, and it needs to be something that you can sell, that you can move, and you can take to different distributions. And I was like, well, damn it, that's right up my alley. That's exactly what I want to do. My company that I put together, Sketching Light Productions, we kind of want to be from nuts to bolts, from beginning to end, kind of keep everything. I want to find really skilled people, and I want to be able to develop the story. I want to find the team that I can surround them with to pad them, to make them stronger and give them what they need. And we did that with this young director. He's 24 years old, and I spent my time because I didn't want to take on a 24-year-old. I'm looking at, no offense to anybody that's young, but I didn't want to take on a 24-year-old director because there's a lot that comes with that the kid had no experience, had not had anything before that had really been out there on the market. He's not done anything at this level. Mm-hmm. So I got a producing team to surround him, to kind of pad him in different ways for different things. I found a DP that would work with him that, could really kind of nurture him and do their best, but also was hungry enough to kind of do this for the budget that we're looking at. And I managed to get through those connections. It just kind of worked out and spiderwebbed itself out. And I went and personally talked to each person involved in each team, got really close, got connected with people, and basically built this entire team. The entire thing came off looking, it's gorgeous. Right now we're finishing up our post audio right now. And there's potential right now. We are talking to a couple of agencies, and we're looking at the possibility of Hulu or Netflix, or even Tubi right now. Where Tubi's trying to bring up some stuff, but it's cohesive. It's got a good feel to it. It's got a lot of work that it needs to be done, but mind you, this 24-year-old director, there's some things in there that you find, that are going to happen because life experiences do count for something. But you could tell that the actors that they brought in brought their life experiences to this, and they really added to it. So my whole thing is, I do love directing. In fact, I've got a thing that I'm going to be doing. Mostly I'm narrative. You guys do a lot of commercial. I love doing commercials too. I really do, because honestly, they can be more lucrative at times. And you can do kind of a small cinema aspect, but it's like we're getting a lot of buzzing in here.
I was trying to figure out.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out what that is too. I put my phone over there for that reason.
The mic stand maybe a couple inches. I feel like mine.
Is it? Is that it? What? Oh, so
There you go.
I think we're good.
Seems better.
There we go. But yeah, ultimately, I love producing simply because you're kind of creating this group of people, you're putting them together, and then you're making sure that things work out. And that's in narrative. Now, in commercial stuff, I've come to like it, but I still kind of want to do more directing when it comes to the commercial stuff, and I still want to direct some narrative stuff. But I'm pretty content where I am right now with the producing. It feels good, and I mean the directing stuff. Like I said, I've got my own thing that I'm putting together. It's a prelude to a werewolf western that was written for me a long time ago, and I still want to do that. And I've got an anthology that we've put together, and we are about to launch our campaign to get funding for this. We're looking at the low end 1.5. I'm aiming for 2.5, but ultimately I know I feel like we could probably get 1.5 a little easier, and I can make 1.5 work, especially if I'm shooting it within Texas. I can definitely stretch that dollar. It's knowing where you can get things done, and also since I know a lot about Texas and I know a lot of people in Texas, I know some amazing people that deserve to be seen and deserve to be put on this pedestal because they're just as good as anybody anywhere and as good as anybody in LA. And, I can get the rest of the production for cheaper. So I've got a lot of plate spinning.
What do you think of the new studios that I don't know if it's in
There's one that's
construction or
yeah, they just broke ground on the one in it's like near Mansfield, up in DFW. And then there's one here that has not broke ground yet. They just signed papers on it. The ink's just drying on it.
It's by like Georgetown or something.
Yeah, well, there's one in Georgetown. There's also one that's going to happen in.
Isn't there one out west somewhere? I thought.
Yeah,
it's
there's like a couple.
Paso?
There's a couple of them. There's a couple of them that are coming up.
I
There's
saw
a big one in El Paso coming up.
Right, it's like 5 different warehouses looking.
Mhm.
Yeah, it looks
studios.
pretty huge.
The
Oh,
one
I
that's
didn't
going
know
to be in
Like Hollywood
Yeah.
type.
Yeah,
Really?
definitely a LA
No.
looking studio.
In El
Yeah.
Paso?
yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not sure if
Which
it's that
is-
one or not, but
Well, the one that I know that's going to be really big is going to be the one that's in DFW that's over by Mansfield. Mansfield's actually where I went to high school. So it's like, it's weird that I moved away and all of a sudden they're building all this stuff there. But that's the one they broke ground on. And the plans are ultimately, the long-term plans are to make this thing almost like its own little city. And it's going to be like several sizes bigger than Las Colinas is what I'm understanding. Now, mind you, this is all between different people, different contractors that I've found out that I've talked to, and I'm trying to see who they're bringing in to bring up the LED wall. I want to see what the plans are for that. I would love to be with them on the ground floor of seeing how that's going to be built and maybe helping to push it along. There are a lot more people that are pushing LED wall stuff around here, and there's a lot more shooters that are.
Shout out to Stray Vista.
Yeah,
Shout
Stray
out
Vista.
to
They're crushing it.
I mean, there are already 2 studios in
in
the
Austin,
city.
yeah.
But how
But there's-
how do you
there's a whole
see
bunch
how do you see the future? Like the future, let's say, in the next 10 years, maybe.
Well, see, that's a loaded question because I've been here long enough and I've been sitting around trying to get I've been working with a lot of the people that are working with the incentive stuff. And we always have in Texas, this problem with the incentive stuff. But they just dropped, what is it, like $1 million or something? I don't know. No. 100,000? I don't remember. No, it's not even that much. It's really small. They dropped a certain amount, but it's because the whole Ty Sheridan thing coming through and wanting to build some of his business here. But my problem is I don't like to be too optimistic. I hate to say it. Texas has got a really bad habit of once we all, like all the workers here, once they get really optimistic about things and like, oh, this is going to happen. This is coming. Next thing you know, something comes through. Maybe change a governor, and the governor's like, we don't want that. Or someone gets really up in arms about, I think last time someone was up in arms about, the film industry is going to be bringing in a value system that's like against family. It's tears down the family. And I'm like, well, you know what? If that's your worry, then invest in it. Find a way to make this work and get involved and make it the kind of movies you want to be brought here. It's just like you talked about saying no. The state can say no to certain things and say yes to other things, and really just what they should do is open the doors to the ones they want to show here that basically equal the kind of stuff that they would like to see. But the state doesn't want to do that. They just want to say no to something and walk away from it, wash their hands of it. And I think some of those people are out of office and some new ones have come in. So fingers crossed, I'm hoping things are going to work out. It's all politics. Every bit of it's politics. And whenever you're dealing with money, there's so many people that want their hands on that money.
There was even a protest, right? Because the studios were, the construction was going to be blocking some water land over there, and there were a lot of people like against the
groundwater stuff, and you're dealing with a lot of what it is it's not just a protest dealing with, well, if you're talking about the one that's in West Texas, they have a really big water problem right now because of the rights of the water, which honestly I should suggest director Mario, he's been working on this documentary about the water rights and the families behind these water rights, and the companies, the families and companies that have been working to fight these water rights that are out there. And the build in El Paso is affecting some of that. And so those two kind of clash against each other. Whereas, I mean, like I said, it's all politics. It's all, if you end up, it's all, if you're going to put something somewhere, you're going to affect the ecosystem itself. You're going to affect everything that goes on. You're going to affect, like, West Texas is desert land. I mean, it's not desert what you guys may be thinking about the Sahara or anything, but it is dry. And that area is dependent upon a certain amount of their population being able to bathe, cook, just drink normal water, drinking water. And I mean, we have those kinds of problems all over. I mean, what is it? They said in Utah, Salt Lake has been evaporating. There's all these, it's climate change and things that are happening that,
it's like Lake Travis.
Yeah, like Lake Travis.
It's
like
so
Lake Travis
dry.
has turned into Pond Travis. Yeah. But it's
so sad.
It's nuts. But that's the thing, is part of producing is literally getting involved in politics. And I hate to say it, but I am one of those people that I jump right in. Like I'm the worst. Like, you guys have been in rides with me. We've been in cars before where we'll start talking politics and then I'll just keep yapping. and they're like, and then I'm like, oh, read the room. Okay, nobody wants to talk politics. Damn it. Okay, well then I'll stop.
If you want to fall asleep, listen to Brandon.
Yeah, listen to Brandon talk about politics. But it is, though. It's the crazy thing is like producing is getting involved in the political aspects of what's coming to Texas. And then, but I mean, I'm looking at things like Georgia. Spent some time in Georgia, and I've been talking to a lot of people. Actually, we just shot that thing in Georgia. Georgia has blown up as far as their production world. Like, but when you go there, what's crazy is, and this is what people in LA have said about working in Georgia, and my buddies in LA have said this. Georgia has a different way of doing business. They have a very southern way of doing business where it's almost like they kind of rely on the handshake in some aspects. Like, businesses don't have itemized, like, I'm used to a business, even here, especially, like, very, very strong business ethic, or not ethics, how do I put it? The very strong business practices here, even by some of the smaller production companies and rental houses and stuff. But they're just kind of like, I'm like, look, I need that itemized list. I need the itemized receipt. I need to know it's paid. I have to see that on there, and I have to have it itemized so that I can itemize each thing out based on the department it's in, based on, for my taxes, for all the stuff, for what we've used. And they literally they don't get it. They just like, oh yeah, okay, that's paid. That's like, great. Like, no, I need a receipt. They're like, it should show up on your credit card. No, these are big companies that are there, and they say that to me. And I'm like, you kidding me? Then and I need all that. You need all that paperwork, especially if you're going to be registering that with the state or whatever. I think Texas should adopt some of the things that Georgia's doing, but in a Texas way. There's a couple of other states right now. Kentucky, strangely enough, Kentucky is an incredibly open, like, they're just like, yeah, come on in. It's Kentucky. We're going to, you want to shoot here. And they are wanting to, they don't have a lot to offer, but they're trying to offer more. I have a whole sheet. I keep up on this whole thing of what incentives each state has. And it's nuts how much it changes, like, year to year, and the things that they're doing every 2 years they're doing their legislation or whatever. It's nuts. And every state's different too, and how they do it. So, Yeah.
But I feel
weird.
Atlanta has always been big in some sort, right? Because I've heard series, complete seasons being shot on Atlanta, faking New York. Like they
Absolutely.
close streets and make it Manhattan looking or whatever.
I'll tell you, the crazy thing is, if you look at the unions and the people that are joining the unions, like the G&E that are joining the unions, stuff like that, they're inexperienced guys. They're guys that don't have even the experience that some of our G&E have here. And you're looking at them and you're going, well, damn it. Like there's so much work that they're just having to pull people off the streets now. There are guys that I've seen do some ridiculous stuff that are just like, are you kidding me? They make these huge mistakes, safety mistakes that happen often. And I'm hearing these from the seasoned professionals that what's funny is a couple of them that are seasoned professionals there that started in Texas and found out like that working in the professional realm in Texas actually trained them to be able to work anywhere in the U.S. We have a very strong grip electric group of people. Like shout out to my friends in 484 here. Like they are they take it super seriously. And I guess that kind of comes from, like I was saying, the old G&E guy who was like, get off my truck if you're not a lifer, you know. But the reality of that is I think that's turned into this idea of professionalism. So Texas I see, if I had to be a bit of optimistic for a moment, I see in 10 years, I see us starting to really push and get some of that pie like Georgia is. I do see that. If things are to go the way I see that, or I think they're going to go, yeah. And I welcome it because honestly, we have more land here that you could utilize, and you could shoot for so many different areas. You can make it look like so much different stuff, and then go and shoot cheaper here, and then go and shoot somewhere else if you need the exteriors and stuff like that. I mean, it's amazing here. We've got so much.
Yeah, I don't know if it was my perception, but well, I moved in 2018 from New York, and you know, it's New York. You see all kind of productions over there, small and big, but it's. I mean, I noticed in this short of time from 2018 to 2023. A huge
2024.
Yeah.
2024.
Wow.
Shout out.
Here we are.
And it's great. I mean, I've been trying to get involved in the industry, trying to do things like this podcast to meet people, network with people that it's in the industry, you know, agencies, producers, DPs, and at the beginning you start seeing like not like a punter, but you see the same people sharing sets all the time.
Yeah,
definitely. Like, you know, and it's great because you see the people that has seasons, as you mentioned, in the industry, very knowledgeable, respected in the industry, and it's cool because they all know each other, right? It's like you can mention someone here, and I think you mentioned like 3 people already, and I've heard of them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And you guys actually have had a few guys that I know that, in fact, Andrew Barrera.
Yeah.
I love that guy. He's forgiven me for something that a long time ago I did. I was basically saddled with a budget.
You were the a-hole he was talking about.
Yeah, most likely.
This one time.
Was it a music video? Was it a music video that I was directing? So it was a music video I was directing. This was when I was like my first time trying to produce something that had a big budget to it. And I got with this band, and I was like, let's do this music video. And we wrote out the budget and everything, and we had it ready. And Andrew came in with a great price. Like, Andrew was amazing. And in fact, he was brand new with his Steadicam. Had never really even done a lot of work with it.
He has all the toys, too.
God, he does have all the toys.
He literally has everything.
Yeah,
everything.
He comes in, and he knocked it out. He was amazing. But what ended up happening is the manager for the band, literally kind of gave me the finger and said, you know what, I'm not paying this, whatever, even though everything looked great. We had majority of the production, we'd done the performance part of the music video, and the next thing we needed to do in this other part of the budget, he's like, I don't think, but then again, I think he was planning on quitting because apparently the band was gonna the band had some situations where I guess I don't know if he was the guitarist or bassist, would get drunk and do things like reveal himself on stage to everyone and at family-friendly shows.
Oh,
nice. And so I think the band was looking at kicking him out or breaking up. So the manager was like, I don't want to deal with these guys.
Trying to get off the sinking ship.
Yeah, he was trying to get off the sinking ship, and then he basically poured it all on me and then turned it around and said, okay, well, now I had to hold the bag for it. So I was like, I had to pay for all of it. And I was like, and I was young, and I didn't have the contract knowledge that I have now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, looking back, would it have been like a more bulletproof contract? Or
oh God, yeah.
Any contract was there?
Yeah, honestly. Well, I mean, I think it was like a little bit of an email contract. Like I was email, here's what I'll handle, here's this and that, and yeah, it wasn't really a contract, but. Now it would be a bulletproof kind of thing that almost would be like, and if you back out or if you walk away from this and haven't paid for this, you now owe me 10 times the amount or whatever. I would have found some way to put in special writing that, you have to give me your firstborn kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. But
that's one of the questions that I have, because now I'm getting into that role of producing and whatnot, putting people together, dealing with clients and, other businesses. How I guess my question will be, do you need a contract for everything?
Everything.
Yeah.
I say a contract's good for everything simply because of the fact that, okay, for instance, good example. Let's say that whole thing with Andrew and everything. Andrew was kind enough to be like, look, man, no big deal. We'll just chalk it up to whatever and just let me keep the footage and all that, and I get to use it however. I'm like, please, because not everybody is always. And plus, at the same time, he wasn't even charging me hardly anything. He was like, literally, I'll drive out on my own. He was just doing it because he was trying to get some more experience doing the Steadicam work, which he blows people away now with all of his work. But ultimately, contracts keep friendships, because you may have like your best friend that you're involved with, and you try and build a company with them, and in order to, there's always something that's going to happen, and it may be something that you cannot foresee that's going to happen. If that happens and someone has to get stuck with the bill, then the person that gets stuck with the bill is going to be really angry. The other person's going to be like dodging the other person because they're stuck with the bill. But if you have a contract that says, look, we will figure this out, we will find a way,
split the cost,
anything. Yeah. You need to have that, because it keeps friendships. Because then you go, look, a contract is compartmentalizing your lives. You're saying, on this end, when we walk into the studio, we are partners, we're business partners. We walk out of the studio, we're friends. We're best buds. We may have known each other since birth, but that's why you don't want to kill that, because I will tell you this, a lot of good friendships have fallen apart for a lot of people because they don't make contracts. And sometimes even just I've even told people, I'm like, just make a video of you two talking about the worst case scenarios, like a planned breakup. Like what happens if we're not.
Deal memos.
Deal memos, I think, are really important, because a deal memo.
Could you explain a little bit what a deal memo is?
So a deal memo is basically saying this. It's saying let's say I hire you as a photographer. I need you as a photographer. I'm going to get you for X amount, right? Now, let's say something happens out of my, let's say a good example. You guys all remember this. We had a production where it was a very famous golfer comes in. Let's say that golfer, you're only hired to be the photographer for that golfer. The golfer's late, right?
Yeah.
And you're hired for so many hours, right? But the golfer's late, and let's say the golfer's late, or the golfer doesn't show, or the golfer like wants to leave early or whatever. That we need to be clear on the deal memo by saying you get paid for these many hours, right? Great thing about it is if the golfer screws everybody over, then technically you're like, no, I can't screw you over and go, well, he was only here an hour and you only worked an hour, even though you showed up for 8 hours, 8 to 10 hours. Like, let's say that golfer only showed up. He showed up late, left early, all that stuff. And then as the other producers will do this, they will go, well, look, you only worked this long. You got to go home really early or whatever. But the thing about that is you need to have it stated, this is my rate. This is what it breaks down to if I get past 10 hours. This is what it breaks down to. Like, you could say 10 hours, you could say 8 hours, but you two have to agree with that. I know that there are union rules that you should stick to, but the union only put those rules there so that if all else fails, they have something to go back on for the law and the legality of things. If you decide you want to work less, if you decide you want to cut your rate and say, I will do a full 10 hours, a full 12 hours for this rate, that's you. That's on you legally, that's on you. But if it comes down to it, and there's an argument about what happens, or let's say that guy didn't show up till halfway through, and then he's like, look, I'm here, I'm going to be here, and I'm going to be here till later tonight. And that drags you into 15 hours, 16 hours, 17 hours. That's not, so here's the thing. People in the indie world will be like, whatever, we're here to make a movie. But that kind of mindset is how you get hurt. That's how you drive back. Let's say you had to drive back. Let's say you're doing a job where you've got the camera equipment, or you got hired to be both the cam op, but you're also wrangled in to be the driver of the camera vehicle. Like, so you're driving back, and if you guys haven't discussed, oh, well, that means I get paid from when I leave with that camera vehicle all the way to when I return it. If you haven't discussed those things and something happens along the way, and even if it's not you, even if it's a drunk driver that's on the road hits you, you have to figure out exactly who's going to pay when you can't walk anymore. Who's going to pay for the rest of who's going to pay for the stuff when you can't have that job? I had a job, and then mind you, I should make a book of Brandon's made all the mistakes for you, so now you can go ahead and learn from them. I was on a gig with a good friend. There was no contract. He asked me to come on as a gaffer. I'd been gaffing for God knows how long. Like, lighting was my first real love. And what's crazy about this is he had decided that we needed a Fisher 10, which is the heaviest of the Fisher dollies, and then we needed a Fisher 25, was it, like arm? Great. We had enough manpower. We had a good G&E size, good size G&E that we could bring on for the days that we knew we were using them. Great, we had our man days. Suddenly, and nobody knew this, and I kind of just nodded and said, yeah, dude, you're my friend. I've known you since college. We can definitely work together. We'll make this work. I'll come, because he needed somebody that can light for film, because he was shooting 16 millimeter.
So you guys didn't make a contract?
And that's my fault. That is my fault. We made a deal memo as far as me and the production company, and he was one of the producers, though. But what happened was, suddenly, in that contract, there wasn't something saying, hey, should there be some situation where we lose our guys or our man days? Because you can't foresee happening, because what it ended up happening is one of their backers died. And mind you, when someone dies, that ties up all their money. Like, their money doesn't go anywhere because they're dead. Now someone else has to go and get all the paperwork and get that taken care of, because they didn't have this in escrow. They basically taking it in chunks. In chunks in there, and that person died in the middle of it. That last chunk was not there. So they had to cut our man days, cut some of our guys, which fucking pissed them off. Now, mind you, these are guys that in their deal memo said, we only are going to hold true to this many days, but there is a possibility for more days. So it was open. It was kind of an open thing, because we had these extra days that we needed to lift this stupid thing. I'm an electric. As a gaffer, I shouldn't be lifting something heavy. My friend comes to me, and this is where I should have had them adjust my deal memo or my contract. But he's an old friend from college, and he comes to me and goes, look, man, because we have to cut some of your guys. My question first was, well, are we cutting out are we getting rid of the days, all the days we have with the Fisher dolly? And he's like, no, I need that. And mind you, this guy could have done a Dana dolly for like half the things he used them for. Half the things. I didn't argue with him. I was like, look, dude, whatever. He wanted to argue with me. No. And I'm like, look, I'm a DP too. You're really going to tell me you can't, that this shot going from over one side of the counter to the other needed this Fisher 10 and this 25? No. So on the day that we're supposed to be in this Dallas residence, this old Dallas residence, he had told me, he's like, look, I'll help. I'll jump in. I'm going to jump in and do this. I'm a producer on this, so I'm going to go in and I'm going to help. I've got to get this thing done. It's not our fault that we lost that part of the budget. And I'm like, you're right. And it sounds really crappy and I'm sorry. And so for me, I felt bad. So I just agreed. Now, that being said, I'm an electric. I get in there with the grips and I'm like, I can't lift. I mean, I just can't. I'm not a guy that lifts. I'm paid for my brain more than I am for lifting heavy things. I mean, look at me. So I get in there, and he gets on one side, and he goes, look, bro, I got it. Like, here, we're going to help lift. And then he tells everybody, stop. And my key grip is the one that put me to his left because he said, look, I've got all these muscles. I lift weights. He literally was just, like, he lifts ridiculous amount of weights. And he said, get on my left. That way, if anything happens, I can kind of take it. Great. He was on the front. The DP was on the front, and he goes, I can't do this. I can't be here. I'm gonna hurt my back really bad if I'm right here. He goes, I'm taller than you. I need to be right where Brandon is. And I was like, and we started arguing. I'm like, okay, dude, whatever. I'll jump over. I just jumped over and did it. Now, mind you, these steps are these cobblestone steps, and they go up. And, you know, they're old. This is an old Dallas house. One of them shifts, and my foot slips as I'm going up, and I twist. Now, mind you, this is a Fisher 10. This thing's the heaviest one they make. These are things that used to be, they used to carry bombs in World War II and put them in the planes.
Tanks.
They're massive. And I slipped and I twist and I hear this, like, it's almost like ripping a zipper apart. And it was my back.
Yikes.
And apparently it was 2 vertebrae in my back, the discs next to the vertebrae, and everything cracking all at once. I had to have emergency back surgery.
Holy shit.
Holy moly.
And that's all because I basically was like, and here's the thing, I thought I was going to be suffering with paying for it all on my own. I had to pay for a lot of stuff that had to deal with that. But I thought I was going to pay for all that on my own. The producers stepped in and spoke for me, the other producers. The DP/producer friend of mine tried to throw me under the bus and told the insurance company that I used to play football. And then I decided I would call up my old football coach, and his whole story was, Brandon, hell, that boy rode the bench most of the time. Like, I don't know what he's gonna, like, literally laughing because he's like played football. Yeah, I guess you could say he played. He was in scrimmages, but no, it's like the dude rode the bench.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
That was going to be his court defense.
well, that's what they were gonna try and do,
Played
but
football,
but
he
they,
was fine.
yeah,
Something like that happened on the set of Harry Potter, right?
I mean, it happens. Yeah,
the stunt of the guy who did Harry Potter, like, broke his back in half.
Oh, really?
There's a
Yeah.
lot of stories
Yeah.
like that. Triple X. There was a guy that died in Triple X movie. Well, was it Vin Diesel? Triple X movie way back in the 90s. There was during one of the Transformers. There
But
was in
wait,
Chicago.
what would be your feedback on the contract matter? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, for example, you were as a gaffer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly you step out of that role and started doing other things.
I did something that's not really, number one, as an electric, every grip is going to tell you electrics aren't qualified to lift crap. You know, I mean, everyone will be like, juicers don't know anything about lifting things and how to do that properly. But I mean, the reality is, what I should have done is I should have said, let's go back to our deal memo. Let's get all the producers. Let's put it in writing. Let's make sure that we know that now I'm kind of doing this. Number two, that doubled my responsibilities. Instead of the fact that he was my friend and just sucking it up and going, you know what, I'll do this because this will be a big boon to your career and this will help you out and you're my friend and I really care about you. I basically should have said, look, so that we stay friends and we're not at war with each other, if something were to happen, let's make sure that we know I'm all covered and everything's good and I'm not worried. And that way we don't have to go to war with each other if anything goes wrong. And that was the problem is it was really the insurance company calling me saying it's my word against his word. And because he knew me the longest. And honestly, of course, there's some of the things that he did that were pretty crappy, like bringing up that I played football and all that stuff when he knew for a fact I was not great at football. Like, there used to be jokes about the fact that the Butterfingers was like a big...
So you as producer have to take care of, you know, probably the director, making sure the director or the DP or the gaffer don't get people involved where there not have to be, right?
Yeah.
Is the producer
Producer has
duty
to
to make sure that doesn't happen?
Oh yeah, because then you turn around, and the way I look at it is I tell every producer, I'm like, you're gonna have to pay for it. You have to pay for it. And it's like, and I can guarantee your contract is not airtight enough that it won't affect you in some way, that it won't cause you to have to pay for something out of it in some way. You know, when you're producing, your number one thing is you're looking at the production itself as a product. It has to be finished. It has to be done. It needs to be put together completely, and then to be able to be shipped out. And part of that product is the money that they give you to make this product. The money that your client gives you to make this product, you have to make sure that happens. If you have to make sure, because if something were to happen, you know, God forbid, let's say we worked on a thing that we traveled, right? We recently, you know, not too long ago, last year, we worked on something that traveled. If for some reason, let's say we got into a car accident, and, you know, Alex was up in the front seat or something, right? And that someone happened to hit right at the passenger side, and Alex can't use his right arm anymore. You're right-handed, right?
Yeah.
That would destroy, like, your photography career. Not saying that it would all be on you, but that's the reason insurance is important. That's the reason you have these things. And a lot of people, I get it, they are, you know, it sucks because what really sucks about insurance is it really sucks when you're not using it. When you're like, I paid all this money and that insurance did nothing because we didn't need it. But it's the worst thing when you do need it and something happens, and it kills you. But the idea of it is like, this is nothing we're doing here is worth putting our lives on the line. Nothing. We're not saving lives. We're not going into burning buildings. We're not keeping people alive. We're not doing brain surgery. We are making visual pleasing things, aesthetically pleasing things for people to either be entertained or for people to sell something. We are not integral to, like, I mean, during the COVID experience, we're not essential workers.
Yeah.
And everything we do is all luxury. And we should remember that, because there's nothing worth. And I used to do things. When I was really young, like in my early 20s, I used to do dumb things and put myself in situations as a cam op. Like, you know, as a cam op, they have situations where they're like, I want to get this shot up here. And there was things that, like, they wanted to get shots up, like, cliff sides and stuff like that. I'm like, well, I could climb that. I could do that. Yeah, sometimes you want to do that because deep down inside, you, as a photographer, as a cinematographer, you want to get that shot because, it feels good. But you put yourself in a situation where if something were to happen, like, God forbid, like, it's not really the production you should be worrying about. It's the fact that, can you work on other things after that? Can you still do things? Mm-hmm. And I want to change that.
Yeah, I always get nervous when we get overhead shots, and let's say
all the safety cables and everything.
It's you know, it's scary. Mostly if you have two talents on
something
planning
underneath the camera.
Yeah, planning is everything. And when you get really professional people to rig something, you want to know that they can draw it out, that they can explain it. And at the same time, you also know, though, the professionals that do that, they will get the talent out of the way. They'll get everybody out of the way. They will make sure everybody's safe so they can build it. And then they will go slowly and explain. And they will be like, nobody touch this. Nobody mess with this. Nobody do this because I'm the only one that should be adjusting anything on this. And every time we have to readjust, I'm going to take out the talent. And it may seem like, the tough part about that is, it may seem like this is a lot of wasting time a lot of times, because I mean, I get it. When I was doing indie stuff, we were running gun and we had amazing stuff, and you could do that. You could do that. But look at the
No, I'm having that experience. I remember the last shoot that we had for the golf cart. There was a portion we were at Stray Vista. Yeah. And there was an overhead shot with two kids and their parents. Yeah. That was a whole family in the frame. And we had this massive area mirror on top of them. But
I remember seeing that. You know what your first thing that you did right, though, was? You hired the G&E crew that is smart enough and experienced enough that they made those rigs tight and they made those rigs strong. Yeah. And that right there is your first bit of insurance, is really trying to vet the people that you work with and making sure they can do these crazy things that you want to do.
Yeah.
That's why, these shots, the crazy shots that they want to do, that sometimes, like, the first thing in my head as a producer is I start going, how much is that going to cost me? Because as soon as someone says, I want to do an overhead or I want to do something that the camera's moving, you start thinking, okay, well, that just upped our budget in us getting our key grip and gaffer, because we need to get people that are experienced enough that have done these kinds of things.
Yeah.
No, they specialize, or they're smart enough to know. They've been there and they know how to put those rigs together to make them safe. They know the protocol and they know how to get all that.
Yeah, man, that is so important.
Safety is everybody's job.
Yeah.
Safety is everybody's job. I always hear people going, well, I look after safety. Like, I hear producers say that, I hear ADs say that, I hear key grips say that, but the reality is safety is everybody's job.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the one important thing when you're putting, a team together, people together, crew together, is knowing who you're working with, right? Like, hiring someone that has experience in what they're doing and what they do and so on is just bring you peace of mind that, something may happen, because shit happens.
Yeah, it does.
But at least that the people that it's behind production and everything and gear and whatnot, they know what they're doing and they take their whatever.
On this last thing, sometimes you could do everything in your power to make it as safe as possible as a producer. On this last thing, I didn't know this until after the fact. We ended up doing a shot that we didn't really get the cleanest sound in because they wanted to go straight to labs. But it's all because they didn't want to go in. The sound department did not want to go into there with their boom mics. And here's why. The building we were in had asbestos in the tiles, right? When we went and checked this out, I was like, okay, everybody put on their masks. Everybody get their masks on. Everybody cover up. Like, we're going to walk through and we're going to walk out. And they told me, they were like, there's asbestos. I'm like, well, we're not going to be kicking things up. I also paid a professional crew that deals with those kinds of things to come in, to lay down, to spray down like a lacquer on the floor, and then to also lay down this plastic over all these tiles. That's really the tiles in the floor, not the tiles in the ceiling, apparently. All that stuff was ripped out, too. I paid for all that. My sound department still didn't even go in there. Now, mind you, that's their prerogative. That is their prerogative. You have to live with that. You have to understand that some people are going to be a little squeamish about certain things. And, it takes a lot of exposure for asbestos. But if they don't feel like they don't want to be in that situation, then you just have to live with it. And that money that you spent trying to make this perfect for them, unfortunately, sometimes just goes off. You do waste money. There's times you waste money, and it sucks because you think, I could have taken that money and I could have used that help for better ADR. Better ADR in the end with what they didn't get because they couldn't go in there.
Yeah. And I have a question around that. Like, for example, you cannot always quote whatever it's going to happen in production, right? Along the way, you start realizing that you need this. You're probably going to need an extra
30%.
That's why it's beauty that I fucked up enough. That I fucked up a lot enough that I could be like, oh no, I have a story for that one. I have a story for that one.
So my question is, how much of that do you have the freedom to come up to the agency or client and say, hey, we spent a couple $1,000 extra on this?
So I establish a write-off. When I come into a client or I come up to somebody, I establish, look, these are the things that I see things that you don't see because I've been through this. I've been the lowly guy on the totem pole. I've been throughout all this. That's the benefit of all the years of experience I've done doing everything. I've been kicked around. I've hurt myself because of my own negligence. But you go to the client and you say to them, you have to make them understand that production back and forth. Now, whether that's using the lingo, whether that's quick to come up with answers or ideas, you have to find some way that they understand that you are the person who's done enough that you can see every possibility unfold. And that's a tough one, but it's something you should always aim for when you get on those calls, that you've been there, you've done that. Bring up other situations. If you've got a shot that they want to do, let's say you've got this overhead shot, right? Let's say you've got something where you want them to take this shot from the camera from the floor and then it goes up and over their head and behind them, right? We've talked about this kind of thing. Now, you've already done right now, you've done the overhead. So you know what was the first answer. Find the professionals that are smart enough to get it done. Number 2, you start talking about, is this, like you said earlier, is it a shot for being cool? Is it for being cool, or does it serve the story? You ask that question. You need to put those in front of your client, because clients will show up and tell you things automatically.
We're a little technical difficulty. Brandon can pick it back up. Yeah, here we go.
So just like any technical difficulties that you might have, everything is, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what gremlins are in the system, and it's Murphy's Law. So as a producer, you have to live by Murphy's Law. You have to know that anything can happen at any time, and there's always someone out to maybe put a wrench into your works there, and you got to think about that. You have to anticipate, and experience is really the only thing that teaches how to anticipate. And like I said, I've fucked up enough. I messed up enough that I'm waiting for the next Brandon Torres to walk on set, basically. I'm just looking for the next, so I spot them and I go, oh, that's another Brandon, that's another Brandon, that's Brandon. Okay, so I know what's going to happen. We're good. That's it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not saying I screwed things up, but for some reason shit follows me. You know, it happens.
No, things happen for sure. And it's really hard sometimes to know what's going to happen, right? Because mostly, like, for example, the last experience that I've had, like, for example, virtual production is something that I'm pushing forward, you know, because I love the technology. I love what can offers, you know, the results that we get out of it. And, you know, filmmaking is it's just another tool, right? So I'm trying to kind of embrace it and have the experience. I love it. But with that, it's technology. Technology fails.
Yeah, things happen, right?
You know, it gets stuck, something happened, and, you know, and it takes time on set that you are not.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, planning
You don't have
and-
quad for wasting time.
I mean, that's the whole reason food prep, they do things like use, you know, so many chemicals when they put on there. They do what they can. They paint the tomatoes. Here, something happens. Knocked this over. They paint tomatoes. They do things like that. You know, none of it's edible. What you're actually doing, like the way they build up the buns, you know, is like none of that's edible.
It's all fake.
It's all fake. Everything's fake. We're in an industry of fake things that we're trying to do all the time to make it look as if it was brand new and the best it can be, not to try and lie. We're trying to say, here's the thing, like, how do you make a hamburger that's been sitting out for like 6 hours look like a great hamburger? And how do you make sure that my phone doesn't keep going off? No.
I tell my family that all the time, you know, that everything's fake in film and movies, and you know, they'll look at lights, and, you know, there'll be like a beautiful ray of light coming through the window, and I'm like, you think that's the sun?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, obviously not, you know, but they don't, if you're not in this world, you don't sit down and think about all those things that, like, oh, these are all artificial lights, like it's fake food. All the wardrobe is meticulously planned. You know, there's so many elements.
And, you know, it's just, that's one of the things that I love about cinematography is not make it obvious that it's fake, right? You have to make it look beautiful and whatnot. And it's a challenge for sure.
That's the thing about directing reality TV, because people think reality TV is real, and you don't. Like, there are the two important things in reality TV you have are your director, who kind of moves, well, your director, producer, and your editor. You have people moving things around and kind of, you know, shifting the tides on things so that we see the story that's unfolding as it's happening. And then you end up writing in a little extra or a little something so that people expect something to happen. You either, you know, you drop them off a cliff at that point in time, or you follow through with what they expect is going to happen. They know it's going to happen. Sometimes you do that so you can feed it to them a little bit, going, I knew this was going to happen. Reality TV is one of the most fake fake things. I think the only thing that's reality is the cinema verite aspect. That's no lighting.
Yeah.
It's no. I mean, they do minimal lighting. They
flat.
do. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
it's just
but they
light
make
everywhere.
it. Yeah, they make it
Yeah.
flat simply because of the fact that they're like, well, we want it to feel like what your eyes look like. Like you're not looking for lighting. You're just looking at whatever's there, and the story is king. So everything else is just shoot it, keep it wherever it is, find whatever's there, and some of those reality TV things like you'll see good cinematographers come in there and they will utilize what they have around them and shoot in a way where they're like, okay, we're going to shoot it. I mean, I think, you guys have you guys talked to, what's his name? Why can't I say his name right now? Off the top of my head, works reality TV, a friend of ours.
Austin.
Austin. Yeah, have you guys talked to him? Like
we haven't done a podcast.
shooting with
yet,
him
but-
would be like shooting. He could tell you, like, when you shoot, you're looking for the shots. You're always walking around looking for the
Hunting,
things. Hunting
Yeah.
for
He's
everything.
a
And that's what you
hunter.
do when you are. I mean, honestly, you should be doing that every job, like whatever job you are. If you're a key grip, you're hunting for how do I
mean,
rig this better?
How do I make this better, and how do I get ahead of the game? You know?
I'm very
Everything's
familiar with that
anticipation.
because I'm always hunting for a good frame. I know a shot list is a structure for your day and for the final outcome that you the client is expecting from you. But once I'm on set, I'm always hunting for this shot might be actually better than the one that we thought and we
Yeah,
put
definitely.
in the shot list. So I'm very flexible on that end. I believe I'm not attached to the shot list or
That's one of those-
storyboard.
Yeah,
It's gonna be a little
that's the thing
flexible,
is,
you know?
That's what I say is I tell people make their storyboards, make your shot list, plan it to death, because if all else fails and you can't come up with something new along the way,
Yeah.
then go back to the original basic
Yeah,
of
yeah.
what you started, and then you're.
Yeah.
So I tell people a lot of times, I work with directors a lot of times who are like, I like to shoot from the hip. I don't like to have a storyboard. I don't like to have this. And I said, plans are not meant to always be followed. They're just a guideline, so you know that path. That if you veered off the beaten path and you don't know which way you're going because you don't have the right compass, you don't have any idea of did we create, the same feel that we need. You have at least a little bit of a roadmap to go back to.
Yeah.
To know where your center is.
Yeah,
That's
just
the
kinda-
whole point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes total sense.
Thank you so much for listening to part 1 of this episode with Brandon Torres and Alex Burton. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Instagram and TikTok as well. And if you can give us a 5-star rating anywhere you can, we would greatly appreciate it. Thanks so much, and this concludes episode number 6.